Entitled mother-in-law wants to take me to court because I said entitled great-grandmother cannot see my baby because she assaulted me, and you guys will not believe what happens next. This is going to be somewhat of a lengthy story because it goes a few years back into the present. I made a post a few months ago on here regarding an entitled great-grandma, aka Egg, assaulting me in front of my child when she grabbed me by the throat. Not sure if anyone remembers. Anyways, I decided to share about her entitled narcissistic daughter, EMIL, entitled mother-in-law. Nearly 4 years ago, when I was in labor with my son, entitled mother-in-law sat in the delivery room the entire time. She told me that her son, father of my child, did not want my family in the room and would leave if they showed themselves. I was foolish enough to listen to her. After my son was born, it turns out that the father never said anything like that. It was entitled mother-in-law that did not want my family in there. I did let her family see my child, just not take them back home with them as they lived 4 hours away at the time. My son was an infant and didn't want him traveling those distances. Because of this, she and her husband wanted to go take me to court. Let me clarify that my son's father is incarcerated and has been since my son was a month old. Entitled mother-in-law talked me into moving into her town and said she would help me and her grandchild with what's needed. At the time, I didn't have a vehicle. Less than a month moving into her town, she and her husband filed a motion with the court, stating that they wanted 2 weeks per month visitation with my son. Living in the same town, I did not see this as being necessary. Eventually, the in-laws dropped it. This was in 2019. Fast forward to September of last year. Entitled mother-in-law asked when she was going to be seeing her grandson. This was less than a month after her mother assaulted me. I told entitled mother-in-law that she could on one condition: that her mother was to not have any contact with my son due to what took place. Entitled mother-in-law threw a fit, saying that whatever happened between her mother and I was between us and had nothing to do with my son. Then she went on to say that since my son can't see her mom, then none of them were going to see him, because she did not see how that was fair. Lastly, she told me that she would be contacting her lawyer. Shortly after receiving court papers, entitled mother-in-law's husband got into a terrible accident. Went to court in January of this year, and in-laws were requesting 1 week per month visitation. I disagreed with it. She's taking care of her husband full-time since the incident. Also, she has full custody of her 2-year-old granddaughter because of her other son. The father is messed up on drugs and alcohol. Where's she going to find time to take care of my son, who's autistic and has to go to school Monday through Thursday? We go back to court in April, and so I'm going to find a lawyer to fight this. She's treated me like garbage ever since I could remember. She talked bad about my family, told me that I was just a surrogate when I was pregnant with my son. She claimed that her and her family have been the only ones who have been there for my son since he was born. Well, that's untrue, because my family has been there for him and I too. She's raised my ex-husband to be a narcissist. She knows I want to move far, far away from where I'm at, and it's like she's waiting to find anything to keep me here. She's never allowed her son to stick up for me, and when we were married, she kicked him out of her house one time when he took my side over hers. With her, it's either her way or no way. She's now manipulating the judge into thinking she's just an innocent grandma who wants to see her grandbaby. And the sad part is, he's buying it. He said that he might just place a court order for visitation. At the first court hearing, he actually almost threw it out when he saw my son's father wasn't opposing the petition. But once he saw that he's been incarcerated and hasn't been involved, he continued with the hearing. Sorry this story was so long, but I feel I needed to share this. Please drop some advice for me in the comment section down below. So guys, I found a little update for this in the comment section down below when OP replied to a statement. The statement was, "You need to get as far away from those entitled A-wipes as possible." Here's where OP responded. "I'm going as soon as I can. I've recently filed for divorce and the ex responded in a letter saying he doesn't want my son going out of state, which is where I want to go. He's incarcerated and can't visit him for a few more years anyways." He also stated that his family have been helpful with me and my son, and that my child has no family in the location I want to move to. That's a big old fat phony lie. I do have family there, although I can't prove it. I feel that his mother told her son what to write in his divorce response letter. She has that much control over him. Guys, knowing that little update, drop your thoughts on this story in the comment section down below. Our next story we're going to look at is one of the wildest, entitled mother stories that I have ever heard. It comes with complete updates, the whole shebang, and it's our highlighted video of the day, so let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so here's the backstory. I'm a 47-year-old divorced female with 2 boys, 17 and 15. I've been no contact with my family, except for my second brother and oldest girl cousin. If you want more details as to why, you can read my other post. This non-contact has existed for over 20 years, and I've only seen them 2 times during those decades. That was at each of my grandparents' funeral. My ex-husband lives in one town over, within a 30-minute drive. He's not heavily involved, but checks in on us every now and then. So, here's the cast. Me is obviously me. X we'll refer to as my ex-husband. Boy 1 and Boy 2 will refer to my kids in birth order. Department of Homeland Security lady, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. Lawyer 1 is the one I spoke to first, and Lawyer 2 is his wife who helped later. And Entitled Mother is, of course, Entitled Mother. Here's the story. A few months ago, I was homesick. I had a sinus infection that went haywire, and ended up with a mild pneumonia. So, I was laid up in bed around 6 p.m. Someone rings the doorbell, and Boy 2 answered the door as I was trying to get up and throw on a robe. When I entered the living room, a woman entered with papers in her hand and a tablet. She was accompanied by a male companion who never identified himself. Department of Homeland Security lady starts talking to me, and the conversation goes something like this. "Good evening. My name is Department of Homeland Security, and I'm here to follow up on a complaint we've received. May I ask if you're sick with COVID?" Me replying in a raspy voice, "No, I have mild pneumonia from a sinus infection. We're okay." "Oh, okay, just checking. We have received a complaint that there are children in the home that are being neglected due to filthy living conditions and very little food. I need to look around and check your refrigerator. Can you tell me who lives in the home?" My boys and myself. I'm divorced from their father, and he lives across the town." "Oh, okay. Can you give me his address and phone number?" I hesitantly answer, "Yes, his address is this, and his number's this." "Can I get your phone number?" "I guess it's this." "And are those your children?" Pointing at my boys who are standing behind me. "Yes, ma'am." "Do you have any other children living in the home besides them?" "No." Then the lady turns to speak to my kids. "What are your names and how old are you?" I'm Boy 1 and I'm 17. "And I'm Boy 2 and I'm 15. They are 17 and 15. They're not little kids. And as you can see from where you stand, there isn't any filth in this home. Oh yeah, we have food in the fridge. Who complained about me? It's a lie. Yeah, Mom, we're fine. Boys, go to your room. I will handle this. Actually, I need the children to remain here, but they can sit on the couch while I look around. Also, it doesn't matter that they're teenagers. They're still minors and are considered children. I'm required to inspect the living conditions. From what I can see, it won't take me long. I'll be as quick as I can. Before I begin, I just want to confirm that only 3 people live in the house. You and your 2 children and the children's father lives at the address you gave me. And no one else here now? Yeah, that's correct. Okay, stay here. Okay. I sat down on the couch next to my child. As I see this lady walk through the house, open both boys' rooms, and they were a disaster area. Now, when I say disaster, I mean their clothes were on the floor, messy, unkept, but there wasn't any trash. As soon as she opened their doors, they both got up from their seats and walked over there. And were telling her that, what I tell them all the time, to clean their room, and that they will clean it up, but that their rooms aren't my fault. I told them it was going to be okay and come back and sit down. The Department of Homeland Security lady just smiled at them and said they were typical teenager rooms, and asked for them to take a seat. She went through my entire house, looking briefly in each room, and then went and opened the refrigerator and checked my pantry. There was plenty of food. I just had groceries delivered 2 days ago. Looked at the dishes in the sink and just kind of shrugged. It took her less than 10 minutes to go through the home. I don't see any problems here. The worst part of the house was the children's room, and although they need to be cleaned, they aren't too bad. I don't see any filth. I see you have cats, and I don't even smell pets when I entered. There's plenty of food in the house as well. I'll notify my findings and make a report. I'm sorry I've bothered you. It is my job. Can you just tell me who made the complaint? Was it my ex-husband? He's a neat freak, and so in his eyes, I live in a squalor. Ugh, I can't release information to you other than there was a complaint made. And what that complaint was, all reporting is kept confidential. You can obviously see that it was a false complaint, and knowing that, you can't tell me who did it? All I can tell you is, a complaint was made and that's it. I'll report my findings and add it to your file. Here's my card if you have any questions. Thank you for your time, don't worry. With that, she left with the man that's been standing by the door this whole time. As soon as she left, I locked the doors. My boys were just hurling questions at me on who would say that and if I thought it was their dad. Now, the reason we all thought it was my ex-husband is because the word neat freak doesn't even come close to really describing him. His obsession with cleaning was crazy. It was one of those reasons why we got divorced. Without even asking, they both ran to their rooms and started cleaning. I was furious and was convinced it was my ex-husband. So, I went to my bedroom and called him. Here's how the conversation followed. Hey. Did you call DHS on me? No. Why would I? What happened? You sound awful. I'm sick, but I just had a visit from DHS, who had to inspect our living conditions because they got a complaint that the house was filthy. And there was no food in the house. Did you call them? What? I didn't call them. They didn't tell you who made the complaint? She said she couldn't tell me who made the complaint. Only that one was made, and it was about that. Was it you? Oh, no. I promise you I didn't call them. Do you know who would have? No. I'm coming over. You don't need to, because the complaint was about the house being filthy. I thought it was you.
I wouldn't do that. I'm on my way.
My ex showed up and looked at the house and said it was filthy, and then went into the boys' room and said he had never seen it cleaner, although not his standards. Looked in the refrigerator and in the cabinets and then said,
"Is this what the house looked like when she got here?"
Yes, except the boys' rooms were terrible. They cleaned their rooms after she left because it scared them.
Hey, did you say something at school, boys? Or tell something anyone as they could have misunderstood?
No, I've never said anything, Dad. The house is filthy or not having food. I didn't either. Why would we say that, Dad? You really didn't call anyone.
Ugh, I'm telling you, it wasn't me. Have you had any company over?
No, I've been sick for a while, and the only person to visit was the delivery guy. He left shortly after, and I spent the next week recovering, and my boys were upset over the whole thing, and kept asking me if their dirty bedrooms were going to get me in trouble, and wanted to know if they would have been taken away, and could they ever be taken away since they were so old? Non-stop questions, and it took both me and my ex-husband a few days to alleviate their anxiety. We had several conversations about the people in our lives, and none of us could come up with a single person that would have complained. So, fast forward a few weeks and it's Friday around 5:30 p.m. Boy 2 is in the living room playing video games. Boy 1 is in his bedroom watching TV. I'm at the sink doing dishes when once again, I look at the peephole and see it's DHS lady again, and she's with the same man. I open the door. Hello, are you going to give me an update? No, may we come in? Me opening the door wider and stepping aside. Sure, my house is actually cleaner than when you saw it last, and there's still food in the fridge. I'm sorry to say this, but there's been another complaint. Is it the same person? Isn't it a crime to make false reports? Ma'am, I need to speak to the children. I can speak with them here at the kitchen table, and you're welcome to sit in the living room, but you're not allowed to interrupt. What is the complaint? The complaint is alleging emotional abuse, and we need to interview your children. By this time, both boys have stopped what they're doing and have come to stand in the kitchen as well. Hey, who said that? Ugh, miss, I need for you to go sit in the other room. Boy 1 and boy 2, would you sit in the kitchen table? With this, I went and sat down in the living room while this woman questioned my kids. I could hear most of what was going on, but from the way the boys were sitting at the table, I couldn't see either one's faces. Based on her questions, I figured out that there had been a report of me yelling at my kids that could be heard from outside my home. That a witness had showed up at my house one day to pay me a visit and could hear me yelling and screaming at my kids from outside. Both boys confirmed that wasn't the case, and that since their father had left home, that they were never yelled at. She questioned them further on that comment and found out that I had kicked their father out and divorced him because he would yell and scream and name call and was just horrible to live with. She questioned them about their current situation, and they confirmed their relationship with their father was better since he did not live here, and he doesn't scream and yell at them anymore, and that I've never screamed or yelled at them. They confirmed that we haven't had any visitors since her last visit. She asked them more questions about it, if they felt safe in the home and other things, and I'm just steaming in the next room. She asked if we were given a chance to live with their father instead of me. Would they want to live with him? And they both said no way. My oldest was now starting to get angry. I heard him say to her, he's going to be 18 in 6 months and can do what she wants, and he'll always choose to live with me. Boy 2 was also adamant that I did not mistreat them, and that they did not know who would claim such things. The interview finally ended and I was allowed to come back in the kitchen. Here's how the conversation followed. I'm confident you guys are telling me the truth. Then she turns to me. I'm sorry to have interrupted your evening. We've already spoken to your surrounding neighbors, and they've all confirmed that they've never heard anything from your house, and that they've never even heard or reported any disturbances. Since we had the report, we must investigate it. But I don't see any validity in it. I'll make notation. Hey, can you just tell me if the person who reported this is the same one who reported last time? I can't tell you anything about that because it's confidential. So, what happens when this person makes another false report to you? You've had 2 reports made against you. The first one's already been closed as unsubstantiated. This one's still going on, but based on what we've discovered so far, it's more likely it'll be closed with the same outcome. If any reports come in, we're still required to investigate. However, they will not hold as much weight as their originals. So, wait a second. Are you telling me I can just make false reports all day long on anyone over and over and over and there's no consequences? I know you're frustrated, but we're here to make sure that children are safe and being taken care of properly. We're required to investigate any claim. I'm not able to say much more than that. Just keep on doing what you're doing, and I've made a notation on your case, as per the situation. You still have my card? Oh, then call me with any questions you guys have. Good evening. With that, I showed them out, locked the door behind her, and then went and sat down with my boys at the kitchen table. And I was so angry. I was shaking. I was just questioning if it could be the ex. He was still upset over the divorce and never really thought he did anything wrong. But he loves his boys, and I just could not decide if he would actually do this. With this, I told the boys I was going to call in for a pizza, because I just did not feel like cooking, and they could go back to their activities. After pizza was ordered, I called the ex, and my voice was shaky, and I was crying. Here's how the conversation went.
Hey.
I got another visit from DHS.
Ugh, what'd they say?
They had another complaint against me and said I've been mistreating the boys by yelling and screaming at them.
What? Well, I didn't call them if that's why you're calling me.
I have to ask, if they take the boys from me, then will they come live with you?
I didn't do it. But I want to know who did. Did they tell us who did it this time?
No, she wouldn't tell me. Said it was confidential, but that the first complaint had been closed as unsubstantiated, and that she expected the same for this one.
Oh man, do you have her number?
Yep. I give him the number from the card.
Let me just tell you this. I promise you it wasn't me. But someone is screwing with you. Did you make someone mad?
No, I can't think of a single person that I've made angry.
I'm going to call her and see if I can get some answers.
With that, I hung up and the rest of the night and the weekend was dismissed. I sat down and tried to remember every person that's ever came to the house, or anyone at work that I had been upset with. And I asked the boys if they had any kids at school that had issues with them, or even a bully, and we could not come up with a single name. We went about our lives for about a week more, and then I got a letter in the mail from a law firm from my hometown. When I opened the letter and read it, the light bulb went off in my head, and I could barely make it to the table to read the letter again. The gist of the letter was that this law firm had been retained by entitled mother, that she had recently been made aware of her grandchildren being in an unfit home. that she was acting in their best interest by wanting to have visitation with them to monitor them, and that she was also aware that the nuclear family was no longer intact, and that since there was allegations of neglect and she was going to enact grandparents' rights. It went on to say that the letter was an attempt to meet and come up with an amicable arrangement outside of the court system to avoid length and cost. But what really concerned me the most was that the letter was mailed to my home address. I had no idea that entitled mother even knew my address. She knew where we lived. Then I remembered that the second complaint said that a witness said they came over to our house to visit me one night and heard me yelling at my kids outside the door and decided to leave and call it in. This has me freaked out. I'm not sure if she showed up at my house or what. Now, I recognized this law firm because entitled mother had an old friend. Let's call her Angie, not her real name, and has been a paralegal with this law firm the last time and I had any contact with the family. It's been like 20 years. I don't know if Angie's ever worked for another law firm, but I do know that entitled mother was familiar with this particular one, and so it made sense to me that she would choose this one. I'll be honest with you guys, and I'll let you know that the solution to this problem that I was thinking about would have me an orange for 10 to 20 years. I just laid the letter down and cried for I don't know how long. My kids came into the room and saw me crying and were concerned. My youngest got to the letter before I could pick it up, and he read it. And you could see the color drain from his face to a pale. Now, my kids know that I don't have anything to do with my family. They know I did not have a good home life and that some of my immediate family members are crappy people. I've never told them the really bad stuff, but they know about the stories that I've shared with you guys to this point. My kids are smart. They also figured out quickly that entitled mother had to be the one behind the DHS complaints. So I called the ex and asked him to come over. I had to assure him that DHS did not make another visit. When he got to the house, I read him the letter, and it was eventually everything that we could do to keep him from leaving the house and, quote, taking care of this piece of garbage. He said he had called DHS lady and she was not helpful and would not tell him who the person was either. It was at this point that I started calling around for a family attorney. I was able to get an appointment with one for the day after to have an initial consultation. I also went shopping for some exterior cameras, and X agreed to install them. Time of appointment arrives, and I sit down with lawyer 1 and went by myself. I showed him a letter of the copy and gave him a copy to the DHS lady's card, and explained the 2 complaints I had. He told me the following. Number 1. Nuclear means family, parents, and kids. Number 2. The reference to the nuclear family not being intact was a reference to my divorce and X no longer in the household. Number 3. In my state, if the nuclear family is intact, grandparents don't have any rights if both parents say no. But if the nuclear family isn't intact, then grandparents can claim rights in the following conditions. A. Grandparents already had an established relationship with the kids, and it's in the best interest of the child to maintain the relationship. Or B. The parent is determined to be unfit. Or C. That the child would be harmed by the grandparent not being granted rights. So, I gave lawyer 1 a brief background of my entitled mother, and before I could get too far into it, he asked if his wife, who was also a lawyer and his partner, could join us, and I gave permission. After she joined the room, I continued with the details of the last few months. She read the letter and then asked my specific questions about why I had no contact with EM for 2 decades. I gave them a brief overview. I explained, she's 70, still living on my dead grandparents' land, drawing disability but spending my grandparents' inheritance, and has never taken care of herself a day in her life. and briefly explained that the abuse I suffered by her and her husband. The lawyer 2 then looked at me serious and said this:
Under no circumstances should you set up a meeting with EM. Even if your intent is to show up to tell her off, it could be interpreted by a court as a willingness on your part to establish a relationship. Based on information you've told us, she doesn't have a case, and I can't imagine any reputable law firm taking this case. If it were me, I would have told her she does not have a case, even with the DHS claims.
Well, when I was younger, she had a paralegal friend, Angie, who worked at the law firm. She was always getting legal advice from Angie, and I believe Angie worked for the law firm for a long time. When I left home, she was still working there. I'm sure that's why she used them, so will you represent me? I know your retainer's $1,000, and I can't pay you half of it now, and get the rest in a few weeks.
If this makes it inside a courtroom, which I seriously doubt it will, I will represent you. And if it comes to a retainer, we can work out a schedule with you. This letter could be a bluff from the attorney to get you to meet with her to try to establish intent. And if so, a nicely worded response should take care of it. But I would like to make a few phone calls and get back to you. Would that work?
Yes.
All right, let me make a copy of everything and I'll give it back to you the original.
After I got my originals, I went to my car, and I swear the relief was so overwhelming that I probably cried for an hour. I called X and told him that lawyer told me that how the letter was probably an attempt to get me to meet her, so that she could show up at court my willingness to establish a relationship, thus giving her cause. X was furious but assured that I had things handled. I had taken the day off to meet with the lawyer, so I went home and kinda just melted in my bed. I really did not expect to hear anything from lawyer for a few days, but he called me later that night. Hello.
Hello, miss. This is lawyer from the law firm. We spoke this morning.
Yes, did you find anything?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. So, first off, the law firm on letter is not representing entitled mother. I've called the firm and ended up faxing over the letter, and they don't have any records of entitled mother being represented. When I mentioned Angie's name, they acknowledged that she's been a paralegal with them for years, and had retired several years back but still stops by the office from time to time. They also confirmed that if she tried to retain them for this case, they would have declined it. We believe that Angie may have typed the letter as a favor for entitled mother, in hopes of scaring you into meeting with her. This is only speculation after one phone call, but the law firm is in the process of reaching out to Angie to question her. I also called DHS, the lady, and was able to confirm that what you told me. I also explained to her that I believe these complaints were made maliciously and falsely with intent of making it look like you were an unfit parent, so she could get rights to your kids. DHS lady said she would add this information to the file, and even though she would not tell me who the person was who had made the complaint, she did say that it may be beneficial to submit a subpoena for those records if we really wanted to know. So, this tells me that entitled mother is the one that made the complaint.
Oh my gosh, it's a fake. I'm going to kill her. Can I press charges against her for doing this?
Miss, take a deep breath. Here's what I suggest to you do next. First, I'm going to craft a cease and desist letter to EM directly, to demand she no longer attempts communication with you in the future in any form. Then, I'm going to provide you with a notarized letter, outlining the details of the letter of how you attempted to retain my services, based upon a letter you received, and upon investigation, I determined the letter to be fabrication. I will also include in this letter how I was able to determine the fact as well as my suspicion of the DHS claims were made by entitled mother with malicious intent. Once you have this letter in hand, you need to go down and file a protective order for you and your kids, and you will need a police report. There are two different things. The protective order will be straightforward and you'll probably go before a judge. Take the fake letter, my notarized letter, with you for court for proof. As far as the police report goes, this could get her and Angie in trouble or it could go nowhere. If DHS believes the claims to be malicious and decide to file a report, that will help. You might even get an investigator that will go ask for a copy of the file, and that will also help. But understand that DHS is understaffed and overrun with caseworks, as are the police, and with her age, there's a chance that this will not go anywhere. However, you have enough evidence to get a protective order and this cease and desist. I'm confident this will make EM stop.
I can do this. If you tell me how much it'll cost you to do this, I'll make sure to get you paid tomorrow, if you need it by then.
It's not going to be much at all. I made a few phone calls and I'll type up 2 letters. You're going to be doing most of the work by doing the filing and police report, and the protective order and whatnot. And to be honest, this situation's made me angry. Can you just Venmo me $75?
Yeah, I can. I'll just do it now.
Or if you have to, cash or check will be fine too. If you bring it to me by the end of the day, I should have everything ready for you to pick up at the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm happy, angry, and relieved at the same time. Will 5 p.m. be too late?
Oh no, 5 will be great. I'll see you tomorrow.
So, next evening I took the $75 in cash, pick up the notarized letter and a copy of the cease and desist. Even gave me a copy of the receipt to show it was sent certified letter. Gave me a business card and told me happy to help and not hesitate to reach out if anything else occurs. I waited until the next day and went down and filed for a protective order, as well as a police report. I've made copies of everything so I could have a copy for myself. One for the police report and one for the protective order. I was given a date to appear in court, which was going to be the following Tuesday. On the day I went to the court and my ex went with me, I went ahead and sent the kids to school because I knew that entitled mother was going to be there, and I did not want her to see my children. Also, there was a limitation of people due to the pandemic. We waited outside, and as they were calling the cases, I was looking around for entitled mother, and I couldn't find her anywhere. I figured she may be sitting somewhere else, and when they called my case, I went in. Entitled mother wasn't there. The judge sent the bailiff out to the waiting room to call the case again and see if he could find entitled mother. A few minutes later, the bailiff came back and stated he could not find her. I was briefly sworn in, and then the judge asked me to state my case. I explained what happened, referenced the fake letter and the notarized letter in the filing paperwork, and offered him a copy of what I brought. I also explained that I filed a police report for the harassment, and offered him a copy of that as well. Told him about the DHS claims, about their fallout, and how stressful this whole thing's been on me and my children. My youngest was having more anxiety about it than my oldest because, well, he wasn't close to 18 and was very concerned. He might be taken away from me. The judge read everything and he said he was ready to rule. Since entitled mother wasn't even there, it was easy to grant the protective order. However, he was going to make the protective order continuous. He explained to me the protective order expires after 5 years, but that he believed this behavior was malicious as well, and therefore he was going to make it continuous so it never expires. Even when my kids are adults, it'll still be in effect unless they go down and request it to be removed. We left the courtroom with a protective order that will never expire. When my kids got home from school that afternoon, I showed them the paperwork, explained that it was continuous and what it actually meant. They were both happy and said that neither one of them would ever file to have it lifted. I can't express how relieved I am, how much anger that I have today, but I'm also very confused. Entitled mother is a narcissist, a sociopath. She's many things, but one of those things is not dumb. I can't for the life of me understand what her endgame here was. She's very smart. you have to be to get away with these things she's done in her life. So I just can't see what she gets out of this. She has a lifetime protective order against her and is now facing some possible criminal charges. For those of you who want to know, I haven't heard a peep about the police report yet. She felt so entitled to my kids that she called in 2 fake DHS reports, and then followed that up with a fake attorney letter to do what? I'm actually wondering if she has finally lost her marbles, and has just gone batshit crazy. I know this is very petty of me, but I'm just crossing my fingers and toes, and hoping the police report goes somewhere, because I think I would get a lot of closure knowing she finally got what was coming to her. Anyways, if you made it this far, I admire your stamina. If by chance anything happens with the police report, I'll update you. Thanks for listening. Guys, that was like straight from a Hallmark movie. Like right out of a Lifetime production. I could not believe that someone would go to this length making fake documents and all this craziness. Let me know what you guys think of this story. Drop your thoughts down below. That's the entire story. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching this far, and if you're not subscribed, consider pressing that subscribe button. I hope each and every one of you have an amazing day. I'll see you tomorrow.